Good morning, Antonio Amaral, Jr. I've been a resident of Palm Coast for 40 years, actually 41 years this January, so I was 9.5. I've been a builder in Palm Coast since 1991. I am invested in Palm Coast, not a concept, not an idea, not a thought. The simple fact was stated, staff has told you, you have a manual. Does it mean it's perfect? No. But none of the manuals are perfect, because if they were, City Council wouldn't have to be here except for to vote for new things. You have been asked in the past to help with stormwater. Nope, we don't have the money for it. You've been asked to dredge canals to help alleviate water. Nope, we don't have the money for it. You just came off of a process of factoring in what your budget was going to be, and not once was it a major issue to work on flooding. But it becomes always the problem of the other person. It's the builder's problem, the evil person. If I am building on an infill lot, which was given and plotted through ITT over 60 plus years ago, how am I not to expect certain things to be available to me? If I am the last house to be built on that street, why all of a sudden is it that house's problem that there's flooding? It's not. Staff has told you the manual makes us maintain water on our property. I have been around long enough where there were manuals that were done where you were allowed to leave a uncleared low section in the back of the properties. I never chose to do that for my customers, but that was allowed. And now we're coming back 20 years later plus of being a city 24, and it's now the responsibility of the guy who's now building to the current code, following the exact same manual. And by the way, we do work with staff when we run into certain problems and hey, if we can move this, we'll solve a big problem. And we normally do it. But it's not the responsibility of the new person to now fill up the neighbor's backyard, because back then it was allowed to leave it low and flooding. And now that water no longer can drain onto the neighbor's property because there's a home and they have the right to have their house high and dry. These are issues that come up often, and they're usually compounded by making knee-jerk reactions and trying to solve a problem that was only recently brought up, because again, during your budgeting, not once was any of this brought up or a major concern.
Scott Sowers, Flagler County resident for 30 years, Palm Coast resident, business owner, been here doing a lot of stormwater projects, many thousands of feet of stormwater that I've fixed and installed around here, so I know a little bit about it. Using a moratorium to help residents in one area and in the same breath putting other residents out of work and new homeowners paying additional loan fees seems like a bad idea. Fixing the drainage problems, and if needed, putting more resources, like Robbie said, towards fixing the problem, that's a really good idea. Reaching out to other local groups that have a hand in construction and working together at revising the technical manual, which we've been working on, is a good idea. So isn't this nonsense that we have to put people out of work in order to fix a stormwater project? Think about it, please. Thank you.
Richmond Intercoastal Construction. I'm a 20-year board member of the Home Builders Association. Speaking specifically to the motion on the table, first, the engineer, an engineer can't just seal a design. That means that an engineer would have to design the site plans for the residential houses. There are not enough civil engineers in our region to start designing all of the residential site plans for all the homes in our area. That's an impossible task. It's not going to be able to happen. There's not enough engineers. Engineers design entire stormwater systems, just like the one that you have in the city of Palm Coast. The commercial development that goes on when there's a PUD that comes before you for a full site plan, civil engineers design entire communities. They don't design individual residential sites. That's why you come up with land development regulations, lot regulations that has to be followed, that your staff reviews. It would be an unreasonable and a not attainable task if you start trying to have civil engineers design residential site plans. Number two, gutters. I build a lot in the city of Flagler Beach, and there have been a lot of issues with where they have attempted to start requiring gutters. I was at a city commission meeting in Flagler Beach where a neighboring property was flooded by the fact that they required a house to have gutters on it because the downspouts were just shooting the water onto the neighboring property. It actually pushed water inside of the house of the neighbor next door. That's the thing you gotta think about with gutters. When you collect rainwater, and you have a hard rain, when it comes out of the downspouts, it's like shooting out of a fire hose. And in most cases, you have downspouts located down the side of the home that are pointed at the neighbor. So our stormwater system at Palm Coast is designed to, a large portion of it percolates into the ground. When you allow the rainwater to fall off the eaves, it gives it more of an opportunity to percolate rather than concentrating the water flow. And the last part of the motion, I would just say about silt fencing. Silt fencing is the most popular form, but there's other forms of erosion control. I think the better term would be erosion control be provided rather than just saying silt fencing. And I just want to point out, we have a government affairs committee that meets every month, and there is a member of your staff at every one of our meetings every month. We work with your staff. We didn't just show up today. We show up every month, and we work hand in hand with your staff to help on this issue and many others. Thank you.
All right,
Good morning, Anna Maria Long, Executive Officer, Flagler Home Builders Association and Palm Coast Indian Trails. The motion for a moratorium feels as though it was made in an effort to force the hand of the stormwater department and to punish the private sector for not doing what council wanted them to do in the time frame they wanted. But that is inaccurate. As Robbie just said, the HBA has met with stormwater multiple times over the last 6 months. On May 23rd, there was a construction forum here at City Hall at the request of the HBA due to issues and inconsistencies that we were noting in the field with inspections. September 19th, we had a stormwater roundtable also at the request of the HBA for the same reason. On November 8th, stormwater met with us to review their proposed technical manual changes. And on December 21st, we had a stormwater roundtable, again at their office, to review these draft technical manual changes that we saw today. We provided stormwater with our feedback and input verbally. We were told that it would all be taken into consideration. At no time during those meetings were we asked to put our feedback in written form. After the discussion for a moratorium by council began, then city staff advised that written feedback was necessary, which we immediately provided. Unfortunately, that made it appear as though we waited till January 5th to provide anything. And that's unfortunate that it looked like we waited, but the reality is that we were engaged and we were doing everything that was asked of us. Although it is not our job and the onus does not fall on us, we are always happy to participate and we try to be a good community partner. And we've been doing that for the past 40 years that we've been an association. Residential construction is an economic generator for the local economy. The proposed building moratorium is for 90 days and perhaps was then for 45. It is not a brief pause that will cause no harm. I have calculated data according to the National Association of Home Builders Local Impact Report for the 294 infill lots that were built in the last 90 days. I'm going to equate that into dollars and jobs for you. That will account to $59.7 million in local income lost, $17.7 million in local business owners' income, $42 million in local wages and salaries, $11 million in local taxes and fees, 997 local jobs supported or will be lost. That's how construction relates to our industry.
Jacqueline Centifanti. I am a HBA vice president. I work for a home builder. I'm also a 35-year resident of Palm Coast. I've owned 3 homes. I've built 2 and I'm currently building another one. In my 35 years, I've lived in 7 different sections, so I've experienced stormwater in every way you can imagine through every hurricane. I mostly am up here to applaud the work that we've been doing with staff. I think inviting us to the table was important. As Anna Maria mentioned, that was several months ago when they started looking at this, and a lot of that came under the competent leadership of Deputy Director Lynn Stevens when she came on board. I think you'll find that she has a vested interest in fixing this across the board, And she is right to bring us to the table at these meetings where we made comments and had that. It was not just home builders. This was certified surveyors. These are people who do the surveys, they do the, and they made suggestions on how water should flow and what it looks like, and made suggestions on adding different inspections that actually would help us all get to the same place. Also at the table, you have your planning committee leaders, you have zoning, we had our field reps from Lynn's department, and I think it's important that you understand all the efforts that have been made. The stormwater review process, one of the things I oversee with the home builder I work for is the permitting process, so I've been on the back end of it. The stormwater review process is lengthy and it's detailed, and they take their time. They are often, to our chagrin, the last department to review. They get 5 days. We typically get almost every other department back within 2. Stormwater is almost always last, which is kind of a hiccup, but it's because they are so detailed in reviewing these plans. And again, I think a lot of that has changed in the last several months under the direction. So I think that it's important that you understand that when reviewing site plans, they are always looking at adjacent properties. The changes that have been recommended that we had no issues with should alleviate a lot of that. And I think they're doing the right thing. They said that they're addressing 50 visits are scheduled through the end of this month. So I think there are some major concerns. I also think they are one-off and very individual and need to be addressed as such. And it seems like they're taking action to do that. So I wanted to commend them.
Thank you. Next.
Mr. Mayor, I'm Kaylee Rickard. Can you hear me? I actually owned a gutter company so with the discussion leaning toward gutters, I'm going to kind of redirect a little bit of my thought process originally from what I was going to talk to. So I'm always at the government affairs meetings from the Home Builders Association. Lynn has been to several. I actually own a home that has been impacted by the elevation situation, and we've discussed it at one of the meetings that she came to. With that, gutters don't fix the issue. From the gutter industry, personally, it is going to redirect it straight off onto the properties beside it. If the properties beside it are already having issues, it's just going to make that worse. In my personal experience from having a house built next to me, a little bit higher of an elevation, they put gutters, now I have more drainage in my yard. It doesn't fix it unless you're gonna add some kind of French drain system on top of that gutter system. And all these costs are gonna impact that home builder that is like buying and building a home. So you're gonna put in a $2,000 to $3,000 gutter system, add the French drain system, all those are gonna add into those costs. So you have to consider that too of those new home builds and the cost for that. I also want to state the City of Palm Coast Utility Department came into our HBA meetings and were proactive whenever there was an issue with the PEP tank system in our area. And I do feel like there are still issues here with the stormwater and the swells. There is a huge backlog in swell maintenance in our community. And I feel like if we can work together and be more proactive in getting outsourced to get that backlog fixed on the stormwater swell system, that could potentially help this problem. In the community. There's a lot of sections right now that, yeah, it doesn't drain properly in the front. Get more people in, dig the swells out that are backlogged for the 3-year backlog, and maybe the problem will be a little bit better.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. My name is Robbie Barrick. I'm the owner of RBI Homes and Roofing, also Palm Coast Pools. So I own 3 companies in town. I've been building in this town for over 8 years. I'm going to piggyback off what she just said because it's a very strong, helpful point to the staff and to us builders and everybody involved, including the residents. 3-year backlog of stormwater swale fixes is beyond ridiculous. I just built my own personal home in the F section, and a month after I closed, they were there on the other side of the street cleaning out the swales. And I said, "Are you guys coming on my street next?" And they're like, "No, you're 2.5 years out." I'm talking 20 feet across the street. So why would they do the whole one side of the street and not go across the street and fix that at the same time? We need to outsource a swale maintenance company with all the money that the city has at y'all's disposal in the so-called kiddie fund, right? Hire outside companies that know how to maintain and dig out swales. And not 3 years, I'm talking 3 months. And then we builders have a benchmark, an elevation benchmark that we can now flow water to that actually flows. and not stands in the front yard for 3 or 4 days. Okay, this is builders and residents alike. We don't like seeing standing water in our homeowners' houses. You know, after a closing, 3 months later, I'm getting a call, my lot's holding water. Well, it's because the 5 houses down the road that are 20 years old that it doesn't have a proper swale. Okay? We focus our energy on cleaning out the swales and the culverts once and for all, and then we pay to maintain them. If we do that, we can flow the water properly and get it the hell out once and for all. We need to outsource this to companies that know how to do the job. I love the city, I love the staff, but guys, they're not cutting it. They're not cutting it. We need to hire outside companies that know what the hell they're doing, and we can flow with their projects.
Thank you for your comment.
My name's Jamie Warrington, and I'm here on behalf of my employees at Builders First Source. As you saw, there was a bunch of those guys that were here, but unfortunately, they don't get paid unless they're working, so they had to leave. The other 70 employees had to stay at the office today so they could feed their families. I'm a St. Johns County resident, so I can't really speak on behalf of any of that, but I can tell you that if there is a slow in the construction industry, that we will be laying off staff. And those are the people that live here. Those are the people that go to school. Their kids go to school here. They spend money here. And those guys and gals did not know anything about this until today or yesterday when I informed them about that. So they didn't have the opportunity to hear their voices heard. But as their leader, I'm here to ask that you do fix their problems, but allow us to support our families and allow our team members to support their families. Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your comment.
Yeah, my name's Chase Rogers, Flagler County resident and business owner. I want to touch on a couple things in regards to deposit of building. That wouldn't be healthy for anybody in this community, as we wouldn't see the pause tomorrow, but we would see it as a pause in 90 days from now, 6 months from now, when there's no permits, there's no building, there's nothing going on pertaining to building. Just like if we were talking about a different industry here, let's say the food service industry or big box stores, anything like that other than construction, and there was being about a stop on that kind of work, there would be an uproar from that crowd. So, people that are in support of this need to put you in our shoes to think that way and how your families would feel if you were not going to work for 90 days. Now, to talk about the grading issue, that's all we do. We're a grading company. We grade a lot of these new houses, and we regrade a lot of old houses. And I've got some of the best graders in the industry in this county working. And in regards to that, what was proposed to have a citizens to meet about these issues, I've got guys that work for me and one guy sitting back here to gladly be on that and lead that and propose new ideas, because we're the boots on the ground. We're the guys out here doing the work. And it is very difficult when we're building a new house to new standards and we have a 20-year-old house next door that's not to those standards, not to any standards at all. So we're here to help from the private sector, even talking about the swales for the city that needs help. There's plenty of people in this room with companies and equipment that can bid on that work and perform that work probably cheaper than the city can do it and faster. So we're here from all angles, whether it's leadership, serving as consulting for what needs to be done out in the field, or actually boots on the ground labor to solve some of these problems. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Please.
Good morning, I'm Chuck. I live in the B section. I think for the most part, it's pretty disappointing as a taxpayer of Palm Coast and, Flagler County overall. As far as a group of citizens having to work together and come through, we already pay taxes for a stormwater department. Flagler County has a road and bridge department. I believe those two need to get together and figure out a problem. City water goes to county ditches. So it's pretty disappointing that for all this, the main outcome was to punish the workers of the city and county versus the team actually getting together that's responsible for it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public?